I'm Allie. I'm the pastry chef at Buzz Bake Shop in Alexandria, Virginia. We are getting ready to launch a really fun program where we're featuring a new baking kit every single week. And this week we are going to feature Oreo cookies. So you'll be able to buy them on our Neighborhood Provisions website on Monday. And we're going to give you all of the ingredients, the recipe, the procedure. And for right now, I'm just going to walk you through the steps so you can see for yourself. And it makes it super simple for you to do at home. So to get started, I have all of our ingredients meased out. So I have sugar, butter, salt, baking soda, vanilla extract, light corn syrup, all-purpose flour, and then we have two different types of cocoa powder. And for me, the two types are really what set this whole cookie apart from any other chocolate cookie. So we have just your regular Dutch processed cocoa powder, and then this is the key ingredient. So this is called black cocoa powder. It's basically regular Dutch processed cocoa powder, but the Dutch process, they've taken it further so that it gets a really nice, deep, dark, luscious color, and it's not as bitter. It doesn't give the product as bitter of a flavor, so it's a much more like luscious and decadent chocolate flavor. So to start, we're going to add our butter into our mixing bowl. And if you don't have a stand mixer at home, that's totally okay. You can use a hand mixer. If your butter is softened, you can also do this by hand with a whisk to start, but it might also be a little more challenging if you do it by hand, so I would definitely suggest using a stand mixer or a hand mixer. So the next thing we want to do is add the sugar. We'll add our salt, baking soda, and vanilla extract. All right, and we'll turn our bowl up. And we're gonna start it on low speed just to kind of get the ingredients incorporated with each other. And then once when it looks like they're a little more incorporated, we'll increase the speed. There we go. And once when all the ingredients are incorporated and I don't see any more bits of sugar, I'm gonna shut off the mixer and I'm going to add the light corn syrup. All right, we're gonna turn it back on. And we're just gonna mix it together until it's lighter in color. It's a little fluffier. The advantage to this is that we're gonna add some air. We're gonna incorporate some air into the dough, which will give it a little bit of puffiness, but not too much, so that when you go to bake the cookie, it won't spread on you. So I'm just gonna scrape this down. So anytime you're doing a baking project, it's really important to make sure that you're continuously scraping your bowl and making sure that you're getting all the way down to the bottom of the bowl where the paddle doesn't always reach. This ensures that you don't have any secret lumps of butter that might sneak out on you in the baking process and kind of ruin your cookie. So we're gonna give this a good scrape. Turn it on. All right, so while this is mixing, we're going to add our all-purpose flour in a mixing bowl, our regular Dutch processed cocoa powder, and our black cocoa powder. And then we just want to whisk it through so that all of the dry ingredients are completely incorporated. The advantage to using a whisk is that it saves yourself the step of having to sift it. So you're also eliminating the possibility of lumps getting into your dough. All right. So this is what your dry ingredients will look like right before it's ready to be added, which we are good to go. All right, so I'm gonna take this off the mixer so you can see what it looks like. So this is a color that we're going for. We want something nice and light in color. All right, so let's scrape this down, get everything in the center of the bowl. We'll also scrape the paddle. All right, so the next thing you can do is add your dry ingredients. Try to get it in the bowl, not like me on the countertop. All right. All right, and again, start it on low speed. If you accidentally crank it all the way up to the highest speed, you're gonna wear your dry ingredients. In the kitchen, we usually call that a rookie mistake. So start it on low speed, and then we'll increase the speed once when the flour starts getting incorporated with all the wet ingredients. Don't be alarmed. At first, it's gonna look really dry, like there isn't enough moisture with the flour, but just let it paddle for a little bit longer, and it will come together as a dough. And you can see the bowl kind of knocking around a little bit, so it's getting ready. All right. So as soon as the dough comes together, you want to turn your mixer off. With any kind of cookie dough, you never want to over mix your dough. Otherwise, you're going to be left with this like really tight hockey puck of a cookie because you're working all of that gluten structure. So as soon as your dry ingredients are incorporated, shut it off. All right. So, all right. Clean your paddle off. All right, so once when it's off the mixer, just give your dough a little turn in the bowl just to ensure that any kind of ingredients that were hanging out on your paddle are now incorporated, and it looks like a solid dough ball. All right, I'm gonna move this guy out of the way. All right, so the next thing you wanna do is grab your 2 pieces of parchment, which will also come in your kit, and turn your dough out on your surface. All right. And then place the second piece of parchment right on top of the dough, and then just gently press down. And once when it seems like your paper, they're mirroring each other and your dough is in the center, start rolling back and forth. And if you have kids at home, this is a great thing for them to do. It'll keep them entertained, it's fun, they get to get their hands in things. So this is definitely a kid-friendly project as well. So you want to roll it out nice and thin. If you want a bigger cookie, you don't have to roll it out as thin, but the thickness that we're going for is somewhere between an 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch thick. You want to try to apply even pressure so that your cookies are nice and even. All right. So once when you have it rolled out, run your hand over the top surface of the dough, and you'll be able to feel for any lumps or inconsistencies in your rolling. And at that point, you can just do another gentle roll over those areas, and that'll ensure that you have a nice smooth surface to work with. So at this point, we want to put the dough into the refrigerator to firm up, which will make cutting the dough out a lot easier. So we're going to move this onto a sheet tray, some kind of baking pan if you have it. All right. So once when your dough is on the sheet tray, go ahead and put it either in the refrigerator or in the freezer. I'm just going to set mine aside for right now because TV magic, we have one already ready. All right, so we're gonna remove it from the sheet tray. And as you can tell, it's really firm. And the advantage to this is that when you go to cut your dough out, it'll stay in really nice round discs. And if you can get it from cutting it out straight from the refrigerator or the freezer into your oven, the sooner the better. Your cookies won't spread out as much on you. So pro tip, second pro tip, if you remove your top layer of parchment, it'll peel right off. Flip your dough over and then peel the bottom layer that's now on top off. And what that does is it releases your dough from the parchment, so that when you go to cut out your rounds, it'll release from the paper immediately, and then you don't have to fumble around with damaging your rounds, and you'll get more perfect shapes out of this whole process. If you are doing this with kids, feel free to use a fun cookie cutter. This doesn't have to be a round cutter. This can really be whatever you want it to be, and something that might jazz your kids a little bit about eating it and making it. So, all right, we're gonna remove this piece of parchment because we don't need it, but what we can use it for is to line our baking sheet tray. and start lining our cutout pieces onto it. So using the 2.5-inch cutter that we will also be supplying into your kit, start cutting out your rounds. And they come out super easy. When you lay them on the sheet tray, lay them out about 2 inches apart from each other, just in case if they do happen to spread. It just gives them a little more space, but they're really not supposed to. And the other thing too is you don't want to work this kind of a dough too much. It has tendency to start gaining volume the more times you fold it together and re-roll it. So while you're cutting out your dough, try to make an effort to cut out your circles as closely together as you can. And this just allows you to be able to cut out more from each roll. And you get a higher yield and a better product. All right. And this does freeze very well. So if you really just wanted to cut out one round and then freeze the rest of the dough, you absolutely could. Just wrap it up in plastic wrap and then put it inside of a freezer Ziploc bag, and then you can store it in your refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. Pull it out maybe the night before or a couple hours before you're ready to use it. You can leave it out on your countertop and just let it come to room temperature, and then you can just follow the steps as normal. So right now this is a little cold to work with, but I'm just gonna fold my dough onto itself. And what this is doing is it's allowing me to not overwork the dough and keep developing that gluten. All right, so at this point, it's still pretty firm, so it's gonna be hard to re-roll. So I'm just gonna wrap this up. And I'm gonna put these guys into the oven, and then I can come back and do this later, store it in the freezer, or I can keep rolling and keep cutting. All right, I'm gonna stick this in the oven. So start the timer for 6 minutes. You'll spin them and then hit them for another 4 minutes. It's going to be really hard because the cookie itself is so dark. It's gonna be hard to tell when they're done. So what you're gonna be looking for is, if you notice the cookie before it goes into the oven, it has a really glossy top on it. It's because it's still all raw ingredient. As it bakes, that glossiness is going to disappear, and you're gonna have more of a matte finish. So when you notice the whole surface of the cookie has more of like a matte finish, you can go ahead and pull that out. But it shouldn't need more than 5 minutes in your 325-degree preheated oven. Okay, so while our cookies are baking in the oven, we're gonna start making the vanilla cream filling for our Oreos. And by the time we're done with the icing, the cookies will be out of the oven. They won't take very long to cool down, maybe 30 minutes. So, you know, the whole process from start to finish is actually pretty quick. So let's get set up for the icing. So again, you'll want your mixing bowl fitted with your paddle attachment. All right. So to start, we're gonna add our butter. Salt. And vanilla extract. So you might be questioning the addition of salt a little bit. Totally normal reaction. What the salt does is it helps balance the sweetness. So it cuts that cloyingly sweet flavor and just makes it a little more composed and a little more of a dynamic flavor than just straight sweetness. So to start, we're just going to cream those ingredients together. You're going to make sure that your butter is nice and smooth and light. So working with room temperature butter is the perfect thing. If you are working with butter straight from the refrigerator, that's okay. Just pop it in the microwave for a couple seconds, making sure that you're turning it. You could do maybe 10-second increments just to soften it up. It'll definitely make your life a lot easier and make sure that you don't have butter pieces in your final product. All right. So our butter looks smooth, and our other ingredients are also incorporated. So again, we're just going to scrape this down. All right. And next, we're going to add our powdered sugar to our bowl. Again, start on low speed so you don't wear the powdered sugar. And we'll slowly start increasing the speed. Alright. So again, just like the dough, the mixture is going to look a little dry and kind of shaggy. That's okay, just give it a minute to get caught up. Let that powdered sugar get absorbed into the butter. And then just keep increasing the speed. So you're going to notice a couple color changes that happen. So in the beginning, your color of your butter is going to be pretty yellow. By the end of it, it should be a whiter, less of a yellow hue. And that's when you know it's done. So I'm just going to give this a scrape because I can see some powdered sugar sticking at the bottom of the bowl. So I'm going to scrape this down. This up onto a high speed, let it whip, do its thing, get nice, light, and fluffy. In the meantime, we will get our piping bag ready. Okay, so this is the piping bag. They come in all different colors, sizes. One of these will also be included in your kit. But what you can do is trim a little bit of the tip of your bag off using a tip. Place the tip inside of the bag and just make sure that the bag is pulled back away from the opening of the tip so that the bag doesn't drag through your icing. Now if you don't have a bag and if you don't have a tip, that's also okay. You can use a Ziploc bag. You can use a Ziploc bag and just cut the corner of the bag, and that'll work just as fine as a piping bag to fill in. If you don't have a tip, but you do have a bag, just don't trim off as much of the tip as you would if you were putting an actual metal tip into it. Alright, so, this looks good. Alright, so I'm going to show you the color of the icing now. So you can tell that it's significantly lighter in color and also in texture. So I'm going to give this another really good scrape just to ensure that the consistency is cohesive. Alright, so we'll let this whip maybe a couple more minutes. And in the meantime, we'll take our cool cookies, yes, because of TV magic. We'll sandwich them so that they match up evenly, and we'll start filling. Alright, so we have a tray of cooled cookies, and they should be pretty uniform in size if you're able to cut them and get them into the oven while the dough is still chilled. But sometimes things don't work out the way you hope they do, and you have misshaped cookies. So you just want to make sure that you match your cookies up and they're equal to each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and make empty little sandwiches. Okay, so I have them lined up on a tray, and I'm going to separate my bottoms from the top so that as I'm filling I can just go in a straight line and then I can sandwich in a straight line. Alright, so our icing is perfect. Alright. So again, I'm going to scrape my bowl down. So, grab your piping bag, and you're going to roll down the top of your bag. If you're doing this with kids, you can do this inside of a glass or a plastic cup, something that's a little more graduated, and then you can just roll the bag over top of the glass. And this will make filling the bag a lot easier for kids, and it'll keep the outside of the bag nice and clean so hands don't get messy. So if you're doing this for kids, you would just put a nice amount of icing on the end of your spatula and then push it into the cup and then clean it off on the side. If you want to do this like a pro, then you take the top of the bag and you roll it down over your non-dominant hand, and you're just going to stretch out the opening, and basically you're going to hold it like you're holding an ice cream cone, and you're going to take a little bit of icing again on your spatula, you're going to put it the whole way in, and then you're going to close your hand around the spatula and then pull it out nice and clean. So from there, you're going to pull your bag up, push the icing all the way down into the tip, and then I call this burping the bag. I don't know if this is a real technical term, but we're gonna go with it. So I'm just gonna push the first amount of icing out of the bag into the bowl of my icing, and you'll hear a little air bubble sometimes, and that's what you wanna push out. So burp the bag. So the next thing we wanna do is fill our cookies. So I'm a mega stuffed girl. I like a lot of icing on my cookie. For instructional purposes, we're just gonna stick with the normal regular portion size, you know, the OG Oreo. So when you're piping your icing, you're gonna go right in the center and you're gonna keep squeezing until you have about like a 1/2 inch edge around the center of your cookie. And we will go ahead and just fill all of them. I'll angle this up a little bit, maybe, so you can see it. All right. So when you have all of your icing on the bottoms of the cookies, you're gonna take the top part and we sandwich. So lay it directly on top so it's nice and even with the one on the bottom, and you're just gently going to press down until you see the icing come out to the side of the cookie without going over. And right here, we have a perfect sandwiched cookie. So go ahead, sandwich all of your cookies. And this is it. This is your made-at-home, super perfect, delicious Oreo cookie. Yep, that's the ticket. Enjoy.